All right, I finally filmed this video. Now I can get to reading this. Hey everyone, 12 Months was released a week ago, and I just finished my reread of Battleground, and I need to give you my shower thoughts on it, the things that I thought were very interesting, or the things that I'm going to be looking for further explanations as I get through 12 Months. I am 99% sure that all the spoilers are going to be through Battleground on this one. If you haven't read the short stories, I think you're going to be safe here. But if not, somebody tell me down in the comments to help other people not get things spoiled. My first thought is that Carlos is very, very hurt by this whole Dresden getting into it with Mab and basically going dark as far as he's concerned. With Harry being so secretive and not telling Carlos anything, even after Carlos has begged him to bring him in and let him understand what the heck is going on, and then having his friends and the fellow Wardens get messed up by the Black Court vampires, Carlos is very understandably hurt, upset. He's lost his faith in Harry, and as somebody who has seen the story through Harry's eyes, this is really, really sad. I feel like from Harry's perspective, Carlos has just started his lawful evil villain arc, and this is sort of his origin story, if you will. And all us readers know that Carlos doesn't know what he doesn't know. And Michael swore a lot at the end of the book. That part was hilarious the first time I read it, impactful the second time I read it, but kind of annoying because I kind of knew it was going to happen. But like Michael said, he'll do penance later, but sometimes things have to be said. I do think that the little piece of gossip that Carlos gave Harry proves that it's possible for them to reconcile. Also, he refers to Harry as Harry when things get personal, and Dresden when he's trying to remain professional. I know in other instances, everybody who's really close to Harry calls him Harry, and everybody who's not calls him Dresden. So you can kind of use that to track where Carlos is trying to be all business, White Council, Warden, Ramirez, and where he's trying to be Harry's friend and little brother, basically little brother Carlos. And the piece of gossip was really interesting because Listens to Wind and McCoy were undergoing medical treatment while this vote happened, and even though the vote is being said to be unanimous, it really wasn't. We know from Proven Guilty that when a member of the senior council isn't able to attend a vote, the Merlin gets their vote. And so if somebody is not there, they might have voted in favor of Dresden, but the Merlin gets to count that vote in with whatever decision he wants to make. And so with McCoy and Listens to Wind out of commission, the Merlin got 2 extra votes just on them. I think Martha Liberty may or may not have been there to vote. She might have been the one that saw Harry use the pyromancy and given them the excuse that they needed. But I've always seen Martha Liberty as being like Team Dresden. Maybe not Grey Council, but definitely Team Dresden, or at least like a friend of McCoy. So I'm not sure where she particularly stands on this. I still think that Listens to Wind is going to be Team Harry, if for no other reason than his mentor was River Shoulders, and River Shoulders is a very staunch supporter of Harry. Harry helped River Shoulders take care of his son in the 3 Bigfoot short stories, and I don't think that he's ever going to not be Team Harry on this. McCoy I kind of go back and forth on, but I think that McCoy is going to do what he thinks is best for Harry. Now, that could mean that he thinks that Harry going bye-bye might be what's best for Harry. Kind of like what Mab did to Maeve in Cold Days, where she realized that her daughter was infected and needed to go bye-bye, and that they needed a new and better Winter Lady. Plus, it gave her an opportunity to bring Molly Carpenter into the mix to sort of help solidify her hold on Dresden. Plus, in video games, going back to Peace Talks, that battle with McCoy where Harry was using the glamour that Molly made for him in order to fight McCoy and also deliver the news that McCoy had a second grandson could be like in video games where you have a battle with the boss that ends after a certain point and then it picks back up at the very end of the game. I don't want to see them fight. I kind of think that it's coming, but it still breaks my heart. The next big thing that stands out to me is I think McCoy is right about Mab manipulating Harry into being more on her team and taking him away from the wizards. McCoy tells Harry about how Mab is trying to make him feel more comfortable, to let his guard down, to then be easier for Mab to control and manipulate. And honestly, this sounds like something out of Lash's playbook and the things that we talked about while Harry had that image of Lash going through his head when he picked up the coin on accident and then decided not to take it on. Mab keeps stressing that Harry still has his free will, but at the same time, she brings in Molly to be the Winter Lady, and Harry tells McCoy that he's not going to leave without Molly. And this engagement that he has with Lara is going to make it look even worse because Harry's doing this to align the White Court and the Winter Courts. From the outside, this looks really, really bad. There's one point where, and I'm paraphrasing here, Harry says, "Lol, leashes don't work on me." And McCoy says something, again paraphrasing, along the lines of, "Mab isn't a gym teacher, or a bunch of worried, cautious old fools, or a worn-out farmer who cares too much about you." The gym teacher thing is probably a reference to Connie, who is the fiancée of Erwin Pounder, who is River Shoulder's son. She appears in the third Bigfoot short story, Bigfoot on Campus, and also in microfiction number 4, Job Placement. And Connie is basically a White Court vampire, and she feeds off of Erwin, but he has so much magical energy that it doesn't really bother him. It kind of makes him tired, but then he just replenishes his bank of energy, and they adore each other, and it's really, really cute. In Job Placement, Connie gets a job as a gym teacher at St. Mark's School for the Gifted, and this is the school that Maggie is going to be going to, according to the first chapter of 12 Months. And Erwin is going to be an English teacher here. Is this supposed to be a Taylor Swift reference? Tell me in the comments below. In the microfiction, Connie and Erwin specifically talk about how she feeds off of his non-human side, and I thought that that was really, really cute and kind of important for maybe later on. Maybe Lara ends up feeding off of Harry's Winter Night Mantle side. Maybe Harry becomes more fey and less human, and she's able to feed off of that, and they're able to produce an heir and do all the things that people who do alliances do, you know. But microfiction number 4 came out in 2020, which was Year of Dresden, and I think that this microfiction was dropped specifically to give us hints about what a Harry-Laura relationship later on might look like. Maybe not the happily ever after where they actually love each other and stuff, but a situation where Lara is able to touch him without getting burned, because Connie is able to touch Erwin without being burned, even though they are very much in love with each other. At first, I thought that this was referencing something else. I thought it was referencing B is for Bigfoot, which is the first Bigfoot short story. And in this short story, an elementary-aged Erwin Pounder is getting harassed by some students, and they are getting egged on by a gym teacher who is actually a Svart elf. And Harry has to use a technicality to get through this. He basically is like, "I'm not causing any harm or danger to these Svart elf children who are being bullies. I am encouraging Erwin to stand up for himself, and in order to make the Svart elf children stronger, they need to try their luck against an enemy that isn't going to pull any punches and isn't going to just let them bully and take it laying down." Which gave me some hope that maybe Harry was able to use a technicality to get Thomas out of the heap of trouble that he is in with the Svart elves after peace talks. But I don't think that that's what this is referencing, because it specifically said high school gym teacher, which then points back to the microfiction and Connie and all that. The other two groups that McCoy mentioned are pretty easy to figure out. I think the cautious old fools are the White Council, or whatever side council thing is keeping the whole Stars and Stones, Starborn stuff hidden from Harry, because it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody on that committee is White Council. It could be other people. In the scene where Harry and McCoy are talking to each other on the battlements, there is this part of the battlements called a Merlon or a Merlin, and James Marsters in the audiobook pronounces it Merlin. And I don't know if them bracing themselves on top of it or leaning over the Merlin is supposed to be some sort of metaphor for what's going to happen later. I know that Harry's been given a suspended sentence, and McCoy is very well aware that he is the one who is going to have to carry it out. And I don't know if they're going to do something to go around the Merlin's order, and this is sort of a hint there, or if I'm just reading way too hard into this. The third major point, and this is probably going to be the longest one in this video, is the question of what can happen in a year. And yes, as I was writing this down in my notebook, the song Seasons of Love for Brent was playing in my head. We've got some easy ones. We know that Uriel and Odin have lunch every single year. That can be a point where information is passed back and forth, or there's a way to have an excuse to talk or do something or set some sort of scene in future books. We also know that Harry's wedding is going to happen at the time of year that winter is weakest. Originally, it was going to be held the same day that Mab told Harry that he was going to get married, and then he got a reprieve for a year in order to mourn Murphy because it's the respectable thing to do and it'll look better, blah, blah, blah. But either way, the time of year, given that Harry's the Winter Knight, could play a part in this in 12 months. Again, I'm not reading this until I at least get this stuff filmed, so right now I'm just speculating. The big two things are, of course, Harry's wedding and Listens to Wind's deal, where he's going to tell Harry about the Starborn stuff in a year if he can get permission from the other folks that are require being consorted with on this. And we're going to start with Listens to Wind because I feel like this is the more important one. Listens to Wind and River Shoulders exchange looks when Harry asks them what the stars and stones are. This tells me that River Shoulders probably is one of the people who has to be consulted or at least knows what's going on. This entire scene gives Ned Stark vibes in Game of Thrones, where he tells Jon Snow that next time they see each other, they'll talk about his mother. Of course, that doesn't happen. But if anything happens to Listens to Wind in the next book, I think that River Shoulders can fill in the blanks and tell Harry what he needs to know. Listens to Wind says that he needs to ask other people if it's a good idea to tell Harry about the stars and stones and the Starborn stuff, and that with the people he needs to consult, he needs a year to do it. Now, that could mean a couple things. One, it could mean that he needs to ask the White Council's senior council to get their permission and buy-in, and he thinks that it's going to take him a while to wear them down into giving him permission. It could also mean that he needs to talk to people that are hard to get to, i.e. the gatekeeper, who I guess would be in the first group also. But the gatekeeper has this time magic, like in Summer Night, where he tells Harry that it's not the time to go against the White Council just yet. And if that was proven guilty, tell me in the comments down below. But I have a feeling that timing is everything on this, and the gatekeeper is going to be busy taking care of what was going on at the outer gates during the Battle of Chicago. So he might not be able to take Listen to Wind's call very soon. This is something that made me smile and the gears in my head turn as soon as I heard it on the audiobook. Mab says something to Harry after betrothing him to Lara about how he has a year to make things different. In fact, he has a year for everything to be different. On the surface, and from a prior part of her conversation where she says that she's lost many lovers and romantic interests over the years, she seems to be trying to tell Harry that he needs to get over Murphy going bye-bye, and that this is just something that happens when you live forever. And in this conversation, again, she points to them having this conversation over and over till the end of time. And of course, earlier in the book on the battlements, when Harry was with McCoy, Mab says something about needing to do something to understand how it's like to be immortal if that should ever become important, after McCoy is basically giving her the Care Bear stare, and it's really funny. But Mab's very meta speech at the very beginning of this conversation makes me think that she's trying to give Harry hints that something else is going on. Kind of like in Skin Game, where she voluntells Harry to help Nicodemus out with something, and then he gives her lip about it in private, and she reminds him that she knows about their beef, and she fully expects him to double-cross him at the end of it after everything's been fulfilled. And the entire nonchalant way that she delivers that first part of the speech makes me think that she's trying to move Harry in the right direction. He's one of those guys that just needs a flashing neon sign to get any sort of hint whatsoever, and I think that's what she's trying to do. The obvious answer for me on this is that building an alliance between the White Court and the Winter Court in this very trying time where magic has been exposed and they need all the strength they can get before the humans decide to do anything silly is just a front. And Lara is someone who, she could be a friend, she could be an enemy, and Mab wants to keep her friends close and her sketchy friends closer. Lara could have absolutely been behind some of the stuff that happened in Peace Talk and Battleground. If she's infected, she could be behind the whole Justine getting to Thomas and getting him to do something that creates a diplomatic disaster with the Svartalfs right before the peace talks happen. And of course, the peace talks are just a cover for the Fomor to go and start the Battle of Chicago and try to get rid of all of Ethniu's enemies at the very beginning. Also, Lara told Harry to take Justine to Demon Reach to see Thomas. And of course, if Justine got to the island under guest rights, she'd be able to wreak havoc on it, probably free some of the prisoners on Demon Reach, and it would be really, really bad. Lara absolutely loves Thomas, but at the same time, she's not above sacrificing him. Back in the book Blood Rights, when she thought that Thomas was trying to take their dad down, she's the one who injures him after saying, "I really liked you." So obviously for Lara, her power comes first, even though she has a soft spot for Thomas. She's definitely been like the older sister who was basically like a mom to him. But she could have also been projecting a little bit on Demon Reach when she tells Harry, oh, you're getting smart. You're able to use your brother in order to get me into a bad position. And Harry's like, I'm not that smart. So maybe something's going on there. I've got two more very quick ones. The first one is that Dracul was really only aligning with the Fomor in order to get some new recruits. He isn't really married to their cause or anything. This is just like an alliance of convenience. In a way, I think that he judged Yoshimo and Wild Bill as being worthy of getting turned into Black Court vampires. And I think it's Listens to Win who says this, that Dracul was trying to recruit, and worst case, in this chaos, he gets his choice of recruits, and worst case, if they send an enemy that's actually formidable to them, then that's sort of like the cream of the crop, the kind of people that Dracul wants on his team. Chandler is a little bit different, and I think that there's a reason that Chandler went into the little portal thing instead of suffering the same fate as Yoshimo and Wild Bill. According to a Word of Jim from 2016, Chandler does time magic. He also gathers info for the White Council, and because of those two things, it might have made sense to keep him more intact than the other two Wardens that he ended up taking. I also think that he might have judged Ramirez as being worthy. He could have also judged him as being worthy of being food. But since they dealt with Yoshimo and Wild Bill first, I think that he judged them as being either more worthy or a bigger threat, whatever, than Ramirez. And the last one, the more I read about Rudolph, the more I think that he is a White Court grunt, and he doesn't know it. He's been in someone's pocket. He messed around with the wrong councilman's daughter. He wears fancy suits, and his facial hair definitely belongs on the movie set from the book Blood Rights. If you know, you know. So all of this screams White Court to me. And the reason why I think that he got recruited is to take Murphy out. Not necessarily in the way that it happened, but to get her out of the game with the supernatural community, get her far enough out of Dresden's purview so that they wouldn't fall in love. And because Harry still has her love, he is not able to be food for Lara. Lara even wears gloves when she takes the keys from Marcone to the castle to give to Harry. And I think that that is her at least like taking precautions that he's still covered by the protection of love, even though Murphy is with the Valkyries right now. Lara is old enough to know how alliances are made and that marriage is a way traditionally that's been done. And I keep thinking back to that part in Peace Talks from my last video where Murphy says that the way that Lara reacts to the proposal is going to tell us everything. Now, Murphy wasn't talking about this proposal in Battleground, but it still sort of gets my spidey senses tingling. Lara acts surprised and a bit reluctant and is more than happy to give Harry a year to go through mourning, and that's pretty much the only thing that her and Molly agree on, which was kind of funny. I think that this is because Lara knows that if they were to marry and then start trying to produce an heir immediately, that things would end badly for her. She'd get burned. It wouldn't be good. But giving him that year to sort of lose feelings for Murphy and lose that protection is what she's going to need in order to make all this happen. All right, I finally filmed this video. Now I can get to reading this. I'm one chapter in because that's as far as I got when the chapter was released, originally as like a promo thing. And now I get to have fun. I am so excited. I'm probably going to do either mini videos or do a vlog as like a like with all, I can't even think of what the word is, but basically a compilation, that's the word, of all my immediate reactions to stuff on this book. Hopefully y'all will join me on that. Please, 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 please do not put spoilers for 12 months in the comments. I'm probably not even going to look at the comments for a couple days until I can get caught up, because as I was trying to search for Reddit stuff to make sure that I was on the right track with some of the things that I wanted to say in this video, I kept seeing things that were like not spoilery, but like pretty darn close to being spoilery. And it's like, oh, a couple days ago. And it's because I'm late on this and I just need to get through it. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I am psyched that this book is finally out, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.